Now let's talk a little bit about validity. So validity is the extent to which a test or an instrument measures what it claims to measure. Am I getting what I really want? So I said that this was a measure of intelligence. Is it really a measure of intelligence? Is it free from components of personality? Is it free from components of education? And it's purely about the raw intellectual cognitive ability of an individual. So I want to make sure that my measure is what I say it is. It's intelligence, and it's clean from other things. So clean from other things, that's kind of possible confounds, right? Have we controlled those? So validity is, are we getting what we really say we're getting? Now there are multiple kinds of validity, and I'll get to that on the next slide, but that's really the core concept of it. Other things, that are up here on the slide is, the extent to which I can take those conclusions out into the real world. So I have internal validity and external validity. Internal is, am I looking at what I say I'm going to look at? External validity, can I take it out and generalize it and apply it to the rest of the world? So validity is really critical in making sure that when I'm drawing conclusions, when I'm saying that this can be applied elsewhere, I have measured, I have looked at the things in a way that is not consistent, I don't want to use that word with reliability, but is really addressing, measuring, tapping into what I say they're tapping into. So here's 4 different kinds of validity, and I ask you to think about this in a certain way. This slide, for me, is the roadmap to skepticism when I'm reading a research study, because this tells me where to look and kind of in the order to look to determine how good, how usable, how generalizable this study is. So let's start with the first one. Statistical conclusion validity. Is there a relationship between the two variables? Did the statistics say that, the group that got the new sales training, was it statistically significantly different than the group that got the old sales training? Was it better, right? And were the statistics used appropriately and properly? Did they choose the right statistics? Did they not violate the assumptions of the statistics? Because most statistical tests have assumptions, and you have to make sure that you haven't violated those assumptions. So did I draw the right conclusions from the numbers? That's step 1, right? And far, far from the entire story. Second, is there a relationship, right? Is there a causal relationship or a correlational relationship between the two things I'm looking at, between my independent and my dependent variable? So that's internal consistency. In internal consistency, there are many different things that could get in the way. I've kind of mentioned a couple about my sales training example. It could be that the manager in Region 1 is just more supportive. It could be that one group got coaches afterwards or got better coaching afterwards. Have I controlled for all of those confounds that could possibly lead me to the statistical difference? It's possible I have a statistical difference between the groups, but it has nothing to do with my training program. So have I put enough controls on there in order to say, yes, this is a good conclusion, and that statistical conclusion is backed up by the fact that we controlled all the extraneous variables, or most of the extraneous variables, and most of the confounding variables that we could. So that's my second question. First, statistics. Did they say it was good? All right, they used them right. Good. Now, do they do enough control that I can logically conclude that that's accurate? Good. Next, what are the constructs? And the constructs that they're proposing, or I'm proposing, do they make sense? Are they measured appropriately? So I might say, and this one is a good example. If I go to my sales training example, sales in the first 2 years on the job. Is that a good measure of success for a salesperson? So construct validity is, I'm talking about success for a salesperson. Did I operationalize that in a meaningful way? Which is how many sales they made in their first 2 years. And while it seems like a simple concept, there's a little more to it. Because how far can I expect training to go? Does it affect your first 6 months? Does it affect your first 12 months? Does it affect your entire career? So there is some thought in there to say, well, wait a minute. The way that they operationalize the construct, the first 2 years of sales, is that the right choice? Is that a choice that is reasonable and makes sense and doesn't violate kind of the assumptions about validity? And we will talk about threats to validity in each of these. But again, I'm trying to set you up for your thinking process of, all right, first 2 years, does training still have an impact 2 years in? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But it's the question that needs to be asked. Last one, external validity. Can the findings be generalized to other groups, times, settings? So again, thinking about my sales training folks, does that just apply here for Region 1? Were they selected? Were they special? Were they different? Was there something inherently unique about them that makes this only applicable here? Or can I say that they were chosen randomly? They were randomly sampled from the entire group of folks who were hired, and they were compared to a group that was also randomly sampled. So how much can I generalize these findings to other groups, times, and settings? That's the last piece of validity, or the last type of validity that we'll think about, is external and how well we can generalize to the rest of the population. The last slide I have here in this is about reliability and validity, and they do have a relationship. Reliability is absolutely necessary for validity, but it's not sufficient for validity. So something can be reliable without being valid. It can't be valid without being reliable. So I'll give you an example away from research. I used to work for Anheuser-Busch. We made Bud Light. Bud Light is incredibly reliable. Any can that you open tastes like pretty much any other can that's ever been opened. They would even fly beer in from the 12 breweries a couple of times a week and taste it all in St. Louis to make sure it all tasted the same. Hard to do, impressive task, incredibly reliable. Now, I happen to like Belgian ales. No matter how reliable a Bud Light is, it will never be a Belgian ale. So if I want a Belgian ale, it's simply not valid, right? It can be as reliable as can be, but if it's not really what I'm looking for, if it's not really what I'm searching for, it's not really what I'm trying to study, well, it's not valid. So reliability is good, but it's not enough to create validity. At the same time, if I want a Belgian ale, and I can find a Belgian ale in a bottle on the store shelf, but I don't know that it's been treated right, processed right, been taken care of. A number of years ago, before the beer revolution, it was hard to find them here in St. Louis because they didn't get over here very much. So they were old, and they were heat punished, and they didn't taste very good. So you could say, you couldn't really say that this bottle is a good Belgian ale, or even a Belgian ale, because sometimes it was just completely crap after the time it spent on the boat. I can't say it's valid because it wasn't reliable. What was in the bottle was completely unpredictable. It could be wonderful, it could be great, but it could be just undrinkable because it hadn't been treated properly, it had spoiled. So if I don't have reliability, if I can't pull any bottle off the shelf and say, look, this is a West Small Triple, and it's fantastic, I can't make that statement about its validity unless I know the reliability is there. Same with your measures. If they're not reliable, you can't say that they're measuring the construct that you are interested in, because you just don't know. And it's not black or white. It's actually a mathematical thing. It's a multiplication. You take the reliability and you multiply it by the validity, and it reduces your validity by whatever that shortfall in the reliability is. So reliability do have a very important relationship. They're both important on their own, but reliability is a limiting factor on validity. So we want to make sure that whatever we're measuring, we're doing it reliably, because it not only screws up the reliability, it screws up the validity.